Imagine walking into a brewery, smelling fresh malt and hops, and every single beer you see is safe to drink before driving, during your lunch break, or even in the middle of a busy workday. No buzz, no hangover, but all the flavor. That's the world non-alcoholic beer is creating right now. And today we're going to open the doors to that world. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're diving deep into non-alcoholic beer, why it's exploding in popularity, the science and technology behind it, and how modern breweries use clever biology and advanced engineering to create beer that tastes real while keeping alcohol below 0.5% by volume. This is an educational look at professional brewing practices, not a guide to making beer at home. Let's start with the big picture. The non-alcoholic beer market has grown from a tiny niche to a serious segment of the global brewing industry. Health-conscious consumers, athletes, people who want to stay sharp for work, designated drivers. All of them are looking for an option that fits their lifestyle, without forcing them to give up the taste of beer. In many regions, non-alcoholic beer is showing double-digit growth year after year, while traditional beer sales are flat or even declining. That's not a fad, that's a structural change in how people drink. And here's a key insight. Most non-alcoholic beer drinkers still buy regular beer. Studies show that around 3/4 of people who buy non-alcoholic options also purchase alcoholic ones. So this isn't about replacing normal beer. It's about giving people more flexibility. Maybe someone wants alcohol on the weekend but a clear head on Monday, or they're training or driving or just taking a break from alcohol for a month. Non-alcoholic beer becomes part of a balanced lifestyle instead of a one-time experiment. Now let's talk about why making good non-alcoholic beer is such a challenge. Beer is more than just flavor and bubbles. Alcohol itself plays multiple roles. It contributes to the body and mouthfeel, adds a slight warmth, influences sweetness, and helps carry certain aroma compounds. When you simply remove or avoid alcohol, you don't just lose the buzz, you risk losing structure, complexity, and balance. Many early non-alcoholic beers tasted thin, watery, or off because that missing alcohol was never properly replaced. On top of that, alcohol is a natural hurdle against microbial spoilage. It makes life difficult for many bacteria and unwanted yeasts. Take alcohol away, and suddenly your product is more vulnerable. That's why non-alcoholic beer is not just a brewing challenge, but a food safety challenge. Breweries must think about pH, preservatives, sterile filtration, and pasteurization much more carefully, because there is less built-in protection in the final product. Broadly speaking, there are two big technological families for producing non-alcoholic beer. The first group is physical de-alcoholization. You brew a regular beer, then remove alcohol afterward. The second group is biological methods. You design the process so that very little alcohol forms in the first place. Physical de-alcoholization includes techniques like vacuum distillation, where you lower the pressure so alcohol boils off at a lower temperature. Membrane-based reverse osmosis, where beer is pushed through a semi-permeable membrane to separate water and alcohol from larger flavor compounds. And cross-flow filtration systems that continuously separate and recombine streams until the alcohol level is low enough. These methods can produce very clean, stable products, but the equipment is expensive, and if you're not extremely careful, you strip away aroma compounds together with the alcohol. That can leave you with a bland or unbalanced beer. Biological methods attack the problem earlier in the process. Instead of brewing a normal, highly fermentable wort, you design a wort that is difficult for yeast to turn into alcohol. That means controlling mash temperature and time so you maximize medium and large sugars, the ones yeast cannot fully ferment, and minimize the smallest sugars like glucose and maltose, which yeast love. Then you combine that with special yeast strains that are maltose-negative. They can only ferment simple sugars such as glucose and fructose but they leave more complex sugars untouched. The result is a beer with low alcohol but still some body and sweetness. To understand this, we need a quick look at fermentation chemistry. Brewing yeast typically metabolizes small sugars, glucose, maltose, and maltotriose, which contain 1, 2, and 3 sugar units. Non-fermentable carbohydrates, chains of 4 or more sugar units, are too big for standard brewing yeast to break down. In a regular beer, you design the mash to create a mix of fermentable and non-fermentable sugars, so you get the right balance of alcohol and body. In a non-alcoholic beer, using biological methods, you deliberately bias that mix toward the larger, unfermentable side. One powerful lever is mash temperature. Enzymes in malted barley, mainly alpha and beta amylase, cut long starch chains into smaller pieces. At lower mash temperatures, around the mid-60 degrees Celsius, beta amylase is active and tends to create a lot of small, highly fermentable sugars. At higher temperatures, above 72-74 degrees Celsius, those enzymes are less active or quickly denatured, and you get more medium-length dextrins that yeast cannot ferment. So, if you mash hot and keep the mash time short, you end up with a wort that naturally resists alcohol production. In the process we're focusing on today, we imagine brewing a non-alcoholic pale ale using this biological approach. Instead of treating this as a home recipe, think of it as a miniature version of what a professional brewery might do on a pilot system. The goal is simple. Create a flavorful, safe beer that finishes below 0.5% alcohol by volume. We start with the grist, a pale base malt. For example, a high-quality Pilsner malt provides most of the fermentable extract and a clean, bready malt backbone. Small percentages of caramel or crystal malts add color, body, and a subtle caramel note, helping compensate for the missing alcohol. Because our target original extract is modest, in the range of roughly 6 degrees Plato, we don't need a huge grain bill. The key is not the amount of malt, but how we process it. Instead of a classic 1-hour mash at 65-68 degrees Celsius, we choose a short, hot mash, for example, 15 minutes around the mid-70 degrees Celsius, followed by a quick mash out. At these temperatures, the enzymes responsible for creating small sugars are largely deactivated, and we lock in a sugar profile dominated by longer dextrins. In many breweries, this kind of strategy is validated using high-performance liquid chromatography, or HPLC, to measure exactly how much glucose, maltose, and other sugars are present before fermentation. Once we've lathered and collected our wort, we move to the kettle. Here, we still need a proper boil for several reasons. We isomerize hop alpha acids to create bitterness. We drive off unwanted volatile compounds like dimethyl sulfide. We coagulate proteins for better clarity. And we sterilize the wort. A typical non-alcoholic pale ale might target around 30 international bitterness units, using classic hops like Cascade for a clean bitterness and a bit of citrus character. Late hop additions, or a whirlpool charge, can layer in more aroma without overwhelming the light body. pH control becomes especially important. In non-alcoholic beer, a lower pH helps create an environment less welcoming to spoilage organisms and makes the flavor brighter and more refreshing. Many brewers adjust the kettle pH to around 4.5 near the end of the boil, for example using food-grade lactic acid. That's a balance point. Low enough to improve stability and crispness, but high enough to keep the beer drinkable and not harsh. After the boil and whirlpool, we chill the wort quickly to fermentation temperature using a heat exchanger, minimizing the time it spends in the danger zone, where microbes can grow. Then comes the star of the biological method, the yeast. A specialized maltose-negative yeast strain, like a modern non-alcoholic brewing yeast, is pitched into the cooled wort. This yeast has been selected because it cannot ferment maltose or maltotriose, only simple sugars like glucose and fructose. That means even if a few small sugars remain, the maximum possible alcohol is limited. During fermentation, we can track the sugar spectrum and alcohol content over time. Samples at, say, 0, 12, 24, and 48 hours show how the yeast consumes the simplest sugars while leaving the larger ones untouched. The gravity drops slightly, but not nearly as much as in a typical beer. After a short fermentation, often just a couple of days at around 20 degrees Celsius, we cool the tank close to 0.1 degrees Celsius to crash the yeast out of suspension. The final product might land with an apparent extract only slightly lower than the starting extract, and an alcohol content safely below 0.5% by volume. At this stage, we still have two major jobs: protect the beer and fine-tune its sensory profile. Because there is little alcohol, we rely more heavily on other hurdles against microbial growth. These include maintaining a low pH, using the natural antimicrobial properties of hops, keeping oxygen pickup as low as possible, and finally applying a lethal treatment step, such as pasteurization. In tunnel or batch pasteurizers, sealed cans or bottles are heated to a controlled temperature for a defined time, adding a certain number of pasteurization units. For non-alcoholic beer, the target is usually higher, often in the range of 80 to 120 pu or more, because we want a strong safety margin. Before packaging, brewers may adjust the pH slightly with lactic acid to land on the ideal flavor and stability point, filter the beer to polish clarity, and then carbonate to a moderate level. Interestingly, very high carbonation can increase the risk of package stress during pasteurization. So many brewers aim for a balanced CO2 volume that feels refreshing but not aggressive. So what does the final non-alcoholic pale ale look and taste like? In a well-designed process, you get a clear beer with a light golden to pale amber color, a stable white head, a gentle malt backbone, and a clean citrus-forward hop aroma. The body is lighter than a standard pale ale, but not watery, thanks to those unfermented dextrins. Bitterness provides structure, the aroma hops add excitement, and the low alcohol makes it easy to enjoy more than one without feeling tired or impaired. Zooming out, what makes this whole story fascinating is how brewing science has evolved. Instead of seeing no alcohol as a restriction, modern brewers treat it as a design parameter. They adjust mash chemistry, yeast genetics, separation technologies, and packaging conditions to hit a precise target: maximum flavor, minimum alcohol, high safety. Behind every can of non-alcoholic beer on the shelf, there's a combination of biochemistry, thermodynamics, microbiology, and sensory science working together. So next time you see a non-alcoholic beer, remember, it's not just beer without the fun. It's the result of carefully engineered choices at every stage, from the mash tun and the fermentation tank to the pasteurizer and the packaging line. For drinkers who want flavor, refreshment, and control over their alcohol intake, that technology opens up a whole new set of possibilities. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the science of non-alcoholic beer, feel free to explore more videos on brewing technology, fermentation, and the future of better-for-you beverages.